In this class we will be concerned with competitor analysis. Now this is an extremely important topic in the context of strategic decision making. So it's a very important class. We'll start by looking at competitor analysis. It's, as I said, it's very important in the context of the planning process. And the rationale for competitor analysis, well, first of all, if we ignore the competitors, then this is a very dangerous strategy. It's sometimes used. Sometimes people simply choose to ignore what the competitors are doing. But it is dangerous because this is the way the competitors can outmaneuver the business. They can gain market share, take customers, and inflict damage on the business. So it's very important to have good information about the competitors and not to ignore what they're doing. Use some research and experience in the industry to predict the behavior of competitors. In fact, some use espionage to spy on competitors. This is illegal, but it's sometimes used. It's not just wrong, it is illegal. Unfortunately, it's becoming more widespread, or it appears to be becoming more widespread because of the greater use of computer networks and the internet and globalization and so on. But it's not good, and it's not moral, it's not legal. So far we've got two strategies, one to ignore them and the other is to try and predict their behavior. The better the prediction, the more useful it is. Unfortunately, getting the information to make a good prediction may involve this type of wrongful behavior. Now, the role of competitor analysis in strategic planning, well, first of all, it helps management to understand their competitive advantages and disadvantages relative to competitors. It's important for businesses to understand exactly what it is they have got in terms of competitive advantage. Have they got particular core competencies that make it difficult for competitors to compete against them? These core competencies could be specialized production techniques, or specialized labor, or specialized machinery, or very good distribution outlets, whatever it is. So if the company has got strong core competencies, then it could be the case that the competitors will find it difficult to compete with them. So what are the advantages the business has over its competitors? And it's important for the business to understand the competitors' past, their present and their future strategies. Try to work out what they did in the past. Under certain circumstances they will do this, under those circumstances they will do that. Sometimes it's possible because perhaps the owners of the business have a particular propensity to do certain things and behave in certain ways. So it might be possible to predict the competitors. Strategic planning and the role of competitor analysis is important because it may help develop strategies to achieve competitive advantage in the future. If the company knows the competitor, knows the circumstances the competitors are in, knows what their likely responses will be under certain circumstances, then it may be possible to develop strategies which will promote the business and inflict damage on the competitors. And it may help in the prediction of future returns on investment. If the company has an idea about what the competitors will do, it may have some idea about its likely future profit levels, which will give it an indication of what the return on its assets will be. Now, the focus of inquiry in competitor analysis, well, first of all, it's important to know who the competitors are. List the competitors. Make a list of who they are. And list all the threats that they pose. For example, some of them may be working hard to develop overseas markets. Some of them may be working hard in research and development. So list the threats. What are they likely to do in the future? And profile all of them. Try to get an idea of what they're like. What do they do? How do they respond to threats or opportunities, and what have they done in the past? Try to list their objectives. What are they trying to do? What's their plan? Try to work out what it is they are trying to do specifically. And list their strengths and their weaknesses. And try to get an insight into where they're weak and also their strengths, so that counter strategies can be developed. Some way of offsetting their strengths can be developed, and if they've got a weakness, how that weakness could be exploited. Outline scenarios of how the competitors may respond to any changes in own strategy. Engage in a what-if exercise. What if we do this, what will they do? If we do that, what will they do? What are they likely to do? So it's a what-if type of situation. Try to list out as many what-if situations as possible and try to anticipate what they are likely to do in the event of one of those arising. Now, the sources of information for competitor analysis. Well, Davidson grouped the sources of competitor information into three categories. First of all, recorded data. This is published data, for example, company accounts, reports, product brochures, information in the public domain about the business. Secondly, observable data. This data must be researched from various sources, for example from competitor pricing. But observable data could also be just looking at the business, looking at what they're doing in terms of distribution. Have they got new transportation vehicles or warehousing, or just observe the premises. Have they moved location recently into better premises? It's an indication of how they're doing. You don't have to look at the accounts, just look at how they are acting, how they are portraying themselves. If they've moved into new luxurious premises recently, the chances are they've been doing well in the past. And there's also opportunistic data. This is gathered from various sources. It may be anecdotal, based on discussions with suppliers or customers, or and all the major stakeholders in the competitors. It could come from conferences or press releases, or just chance meetings, perhaps meetings at industry conferences or local chambers of commerce or institute of directors or professional organizations. Come from a wide variety of sources. It's opportunistic. It's just information that happens. So the recorded data are the annual reports and accounts, the press releases, newspaper articles, and so on, speeches made by the company. Observable data, well, pricing, price lists, advertising campaigns, promotions, tenders, that sort of thing. And the opportunistic data, meetings with suppliers, trade shows, sales force meetings, conferences, and so on, social contacts, just what happens to come along from a variety of sources. Um, Davidson compared gathering information to something like a jigsaw puzzle. Each individual piece of data, the piece of the jigsaw, does not have much value. So sometimes information can become very fragmented. There are small amounts of information that come to the business. Each fragment of information doesn't tell a lot, but when you start putting it together and you collect the various pieces and assemble them into a picture of the competitor, in other words, you add all the little bits of information, all the pieces of information that come along, and eventually a large picture will emerge. And of course, when you have got the large picture, you can also identify which pieces of information are missing and start a process of trying to collect those. A business will most likely know the following about the competitors. Generally speaking, a business will be able to find information on each of these, some information at least. It'll have an idea of the profits of the business, just a rough idea perhaps, but it'll have some idea. The overall sales of the business, it'll know how big the market is, who are the buyers and where the business is supplying. Hence it'll be able to make some judgment about sales and perhaps a rough idea of profits as well. Sales by the main brand of the product and an idea of the cost structure. It may be able to work out the cost of the premises from just information about local taxes and land, the rent on land and maintenance of property and so on. If it wishes, it can spend a lot of resources in trying to build up a picture of the competitors. So I'm not going to go through it, but each of these, some information can be picked up about each of them and estimates made as to what the likely total costs and sales and profits of the business are. It's possible to work out some rough figure, because some indication can be had from just data that's in the public domain, observable data and data that's published about the business, as well as opportunistic data. However, the information that the business would like to have, well, it would really like to have specific information on this type of information here. It'd like to know exactly what the sales are and what the profits are by product, to know which product is most profitable. It would love to know what the relative costs of making the different products are and what sort of customer satisfaction levels are being achieved, what sort of feedback the business is getting from its customers, customer retention levels. Are the customers staying with the products or looking for alternatives? What are the distribution costs? And I won't, as I said, go through all of these. They are very much self-explanatory. So this is the sort of information that the business would like to have but can't get. So it has to make estimates of it. So when conducting a competitor analysis, beg your pardon. When conducting a competitor analysis, it's necessary to look at areas like this and try to make some estimates. The business will have quite a lot of information, it just will not have specific information of the form mentioned on this slide. Competitor analysis is important, and that is what is needed when looking at the development of overall business strategy. So that concludes this video, and that's all I'm going to say on this topic for the moment. So let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.